Good afternoon, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order at 3:02 p.m. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I wanted, for the record, to read in the fact that the executive committee, or rather an executive session, was held on May 31st for the purpose of discussing the annual performance review of the executive director. So we'd like to enter that into the minutes. Next thing on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the today's agenda as well as the minutes from the regular meeting from May 8th. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the citizens' comments. Are there any citizens to be heard today? Yes. Please come up to the front.
Thank you.
And if you would state your name, your address for us for the record. Thank you.
I'm sorry, our personal address or the address of the property we're interested in?
Your business or personal address.
Okay. My name is Emily Barjelski. This is Alan Barjelski, and our address is 4346 Village Street in Erie, Pennsylvania.
All right, thank you.
We are here, sorry, this is our first time
That's
going
okay.
after a redevelopment.
We're friends, you know.
Property. We are interested in 717 West 5th Street, and we're just here to tell you our vision for the property. We're lifelong residents in Erie, Pennsylvania. We went to Erie schools from elementary to high school, and in the last 3 years, we started buying properties in Erie, and our niche has kind of been rehab properties.
Mm-hmm.
We're up to 68 units, and I'd say 75% of those were intense rehabs. And we would just like to bring some new life and value to this property and provide affordable housing. Anything?
No, that was great.
Sorry.
I do
That's
all
it?
the work.
Yes.
No,
I find the property.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We're going to be considering proposals, I think, later on in the agenda. All right. Any other citizens? Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Again, kindly state your name and your address for the record.
Sorry, my home address or the property address that I'm interested in?
Your home address, and then you could reference the property address.
Excuse me. Yeah, my name is Hud Kennedy. My home address is 1552 East 26th Street, Erie, PA. The property address that I'm interested in is 717-719 West 5th Street, 16507. I, too, interested in that same property that that young lady was just talking about. I have six rental units so far. Yeah, I've redeveloped or just rehabbed three units so far. So I don't have as extensive of experience as they do, but I'm going to be living there, so I think I'm going to be I'm going to be very vested in just like redeveloping it as best as I can. Also, I'm going to Gannon, so that's another reason why I want to live in that rental unit. But yeah, I'm not sure. You guys supposed to ask questions?
Or not? I think this is an opportunity just to
for us
to share what's on your mind. Then, and then if there's questions later on the agenda, I think that we will ask go through Mr. Snippert, and he'll use his discretion to find out the best way to get the information to us.
Okay, but in terms of the plan for the rent unit, I plan on living on the first unit, or the first floor unit, and renting out the second floor, hopefully to graduate students. I just hate the idea of living with undergrads. But other than that, yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any other citizens be heard? Or citizens' comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda to the finance report. April.
Thank you. First is the balance sheet that is showing total assets of $11,383.71, with accounts receivable of $124,040.38. The profit and loss was showing that we had a loan program interest income for $81,287.29. That was the interest that has accrued on the loan balances that are hanging out in the accounts we're being good stewards of until the loan program has rolled out. So from September of last year to April of this year, that was the interest that we had moved over as income for that. And then showing net revenue of $96,282.32. And then behind that, I had included the budget versus actual January through May. And then after that, I also have a list of all of the checks that were dispersed for May.
I have a quick question on
Sure.
the ARPA money that is earning interest. Are there strings attached to the interest earned on those funds? No. Okay.
So the authority is able to retain that interest for programming purposes?
Yes. That was transferred as administrative income.
Okay. And I know that there were some software conversions going on and everything, but will there be a time where we could have like the budget and then the actual to date so for some comparison purposes?
In QuickBooks, we had a discussion with Beth, who from McGill Power Bell, that had done the transition for us to the QuickBooks Online, or helped with that, and she had figured out a way to show us that it's per individual grant, but not combining them together. So each one can show a budget versus actual
Nice.
individually if you would like those, but that would be each individual ARPA
Yeah,
fund
that's a lot of detail.
separated, and the LHRD and ENGP and CDBG, and yeah. But to combine them together, it doesn't compute
Okay.
the results the way we want them to.
All right. Thanks for trying. Any other questions on the financials? Hearing none, there's a motion to accept the financials as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now on to the executive director's reports.
All right, so up is the property report. Property acquisitions during April and May 2023, we completed the condemnation action on the 7 properties listed there on April 28th. So those ones are moving forward, which one of them is 717, 719 West 5th Street. We've sold no properties. Commercial facade programs currently inactive. And then as far as the Blighted Property Review Committee, during April and May, we blighted 21 additional properties. 8 properties had blight designation rescinded. So that leaves currently there's 229 properties on the blighted property list, with a total of 45 of those under some level of intervention by the Redevelopment Authority or the Land Bank. So that's for the board with a resolution to approve or accept the property report.
Sorry, is there a resolution?
There is a resolution, yes.
Right here.
Oh, on the back of the report. Sorry. Is there a motion to accept the property report as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any general updates?
All right,
or-
just a couple general updates. The end of May, we submitted the grant application to the state of Pennsylvania for the Greenway Trails. I've had communication with an analyst out of the office last week, so we're moving forward on providing some additional information that they've requested on the appraisals, properties, sales agreement, stuff like that. I have to get a list of information to them by the end of this week, and then some sales agreements to them. I believe it was no later than July 14th for approval in front of the board. So for all intents and purposes, that grant is moving forward and will be placed in front of the board for approval toward the end of July. An update on the Historic Improvement Building Grant, which is one of our ARPA programs. To date, the HRC, the Historic Review Commission, has approved 17 grants totaling $218,000. So we're working through right now getting the grant agreements signed with those individuals so they can get that work underway and we can start to expend some of those funds. The HRC, I believe, met last Monday. We've yet to get the agreements on the properties that they approved during the month of June, but we'll continue to add on to those as it goes. We are still receiving applications, so there's some interest in that, and so once we're able to get some of these projects completed, the city has planned to do a kind of a press release on a completed project, and of course we'll drive some additional interest in that.
Yeah. So 17 is that's a good number.
Yeah, it's moving along very
Yeah.
well. So
Good.
some much needed funding. And that's my general updates.
And I'd like to mention that Mr. Stippert and some other staff members went to the PARA
Yes.
training
thanks.
this week.
Yeah, so we attended the Pennsylvania Housing and Redevelopment Authority Spring Conference in Seven Springs, beginning of last week. Some good sessions on the whole home repair program with the director for that state program there to answer some questions, along with a very interesting whole day sessions on procurement and the differences in how procurement should be handled within authorities. So definitely some great takeaways from that and some best practices that we're going to look to move forward with implementation on. But overall, a great event, something that I know Chuck recommended we became a member of, and something that I feel is definitely very beneficial to us moving forward.
Yeah. This type of work is extremely technical and changes rapidly, and so I'm pleased that you took the time, because there's always a balance when you take time out for training, then your desk work piles up on you then. So I appreciate you and your staff, balancing that. That's really super important.
Yeah, thanks for allowing us to attend. We certainly networked and met some great contacts and other people who deal with the same things we're dealing with. So
That's good.
it's
I
great.
think we have another guest trying to zoom in.
Kevin? Okay.
I also wanted to mention that Mr. Snippert came out to Edinburgh this morning to help work through the home repair program, which is being launched by the county executive and so on. We had a good meeting, and working in Edinburgh, we don't get a lot of attention from the city folk that come out, so we appreciate that. I think it's exciting. Appreciate Aaron's walking us through the program requirements this morning. Very, very, extremely helpful. So I think it was a productive meeting. I thank you for taking the time to coming out to visiting us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, that engagement on that local level is very important.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right. If there's nothing else for Mr. Snippert, hearing none, I think it's time for Mr. Sundberg.
Good afternoon,
Good
everybody.
afternoon.
It's great to see you. We have been really busy since the last time we got together, and I want to especially thank Aaron and Mindy and Jake for all their help and guidance. We were in what seemed like hearings for the past 2 or 3 weeks, and their help and guidance and testimony was very helpful and beneficial to get us through the process. I'm going to somewhat apologize for the late notice of the report, but I took Friday afternoon off, and that's when my assistant was yelling at me to get this done, and it just didn't get done until this morning. So you have the report in front of me. I'm going to do better here. Well, I'm going to try to do a little bit better through the summer months. First two things you'll see on the Watford and Easterling, I'm still incredibly frustrated that we have not heard anything. Watford, that appeal is taking under advisement. I think what's going to happen is when they decide that, they've tagged those together so that when they make the favorable decision for us to send it back to the county, that they're going to send both Watford and Easterling back together. I don't know why they're tagged together, but other than, they're related. But I'd like to get one of them back, get it in front of the local judge, and tick that off our list. So I'm continuing to work on that. Wanted to give you an update on Zach Associates, Don Crenshaw. That there were 2 hearings on that. All of you were also involved on the sideline for that, and I thank you for your patience and while we worked through that. The hearing is done. 3.5 hours the first time, at least 1.5 the second time. And everything's been presented, everything is in front of the judge for the decision on that. Again, our appraisal came back at 0, taking into account that there's going to be demolition work. His appraiser came back at 7,200, did not include demolition work, which again is probably about 10 grand to get it to a point where you could offer it to neighbors. And then he testified on his own behalf, which he has a statutory right to do so. That number was a little bit more than what even his own appraiser had stated, but the court's going to take that all under consideration. There were 2 other, and I'm going to count on Aaron here to refresh my recollection. We had 2 other valuation hearings earlier. One was Pogue. I can't tell you the address.
711 West 18th Street.
So that was concluded, and then the other one is completely out of my mind.
Bronson 729 East 24th.
Right. So we had those valuation hearings as well. Again, they were here to testify with regard to those. So all that information is in front of the judge. On one of them, I want to say it was Brunson. He had put a new roof on from the time. Pogue put a new roof on from the time that the appraisal was done and before the actual condemnation was filed. So worst case scenario, the court's going to have us do an updated appraisal to see what, if any, additional value is provided by having a new roof, which creates some value. So worst case scenario, we might have to have a supplemental appraisal done on that. And then I really need some confirmation from the board here on 221 Locust Street. This is a property that has a long history. We have a board of view set for the end of this month. The end of last week, I received an email inquiry from the attorney for the bank who owns it. They foreclosed on it. It's a West Coast bank. So they're the owners. I got an email from their attorney down in Greensburg wanting to know if we would be agreeable to a continuance of the Board of View. They're the ones who filed and requested the hearing in the Board of View. It was initially delayed because we had a conflict with one of the viewers. So a new one has been assigned. So there's been time to get an appraiser. And the inquiry was, would we be willing to grant some additional time for them to get an appraiser and to create an appraisal? When Aaron and I met at the height of all the hearings, our first knee-jerk reaction was, no way. Come on, we've got to go. We owe it. And again, we've all been there. We were there with the viewers. We owe it to that neighborhood. Mm-hmm. We owe it to our community. If I say, no, you've gotten too much time, she's going to petition the Board of Viewers and say, hey, look, we'd like to get some more time. In all likelihood, they're going to grant it. I don't know whether they grant 60, 90 days. I'm all of a sudden, and I haven't confirmed it with Aaron, and he may be throwing paper clips at me across the room here. I'm inclined to say, look, we'll give you another 30 days, but that's it.
Yeah, at least you're controlling the
Yeah.
time as opposed to.
And that's the only reason I'm doing that, is so we can control, hey, look, we'll give you another 30 days. And by the way, here are some numbers for you to chew on. This is what it's gonna take it down, and here's what's gonna cost to fix the lot, to offer it to the side neighbors. So, so good luck. Now, what I don't wanna say to them is, hey, we're not surprised that you haven't been able to find an appraiser, because then they may use that and say, hey, the solicitor even says this is a long process, but, they've had plenty of time to do this. So, maybe against what Aaron would like, I think my recommendation is to say, you know what, we can grant you 30 days. That's it. If you need more than that or want more than that, we're going to oppose it, but you got 30 days. You got to get on this. You've known this for quite some time. So that's kind of my thought process on that. And you have some times to think about that, because I just received the request, but that hearing is June 28th, so we're getting closer there. We had 2 hearings, the initial hearings. These were the hearings on the initial filing of the condemnation, not the valuation, on 934 Hopeful Domes LLC. She bought this without knowing the blighted condition and just hasn't been able to have the financial wherewithal to do anything. After the hearing, I spoke with her and said, look, this is not going to get better with time. Would you be willing to do a deed to transfer it, voluntary deed, to the Redevelopment Authority? It will relieve you from any financial obligations and duties associated with this property. And her inclination was yes. So I've prepared that deed. I'm forwarding that to her to see if she'll sign it and get it back to us, and then we can end it from there. Now, the other property, 602 West 9th Street. He did not appear for that hearing. He is trying to say that there was some confusion as to the hearing date. He was thinking it was later. He received the hearing date order directly from the court. There were other hearings that later date for Pogue and Brunson, but they didn't have anything to do with him. So he's hard pressed to say, hey, I was thinking it was going to happen on the Pogue and Brunson date when he wasn't part of the caption at all. So I'm not sure how that's going to fly, but I've opposed that motion and said, Judge, you sent the order. You sent the order, you explained it. He has appellate rights. If he needs to file an appeal, he will. But we'll see how that, so that's still kind of in murky water a little bit here. So we'll see how that all shakes out. On June 1st, we filed for 27 declarations, takings on 27 new properties, in the process of getting them served, posted, the whole 10 yards. So we've got the new batch processed and ready to go. 1221 Buffalo Road, again, long history there. I went out to look at it because this was so long ago and has been going on for so long that it was even before my time. So I wanted to see it and try to use it to my benefit. So I went through it with the attorney, the owner. Jake came, and I appreciate him helping us get in there, look it around. The owner pulled personal property out. I got the impression she was done. She had a paramour who was going to do the work, and that never happened. So I've received an email from the attorney saying, hey, look, she has $10,000 that she could commit to it. Way more than $10,000 worth of work needs to go into this place. And I'm inclined to write them back and say, no, thank you. She should reapportion it somewhere else because she can't provide us with a time frame. So we can't be here a year from now because now you guys are upset with me going, Gene, what are you doing? You're giving them 10 bites at the apple here. So I'll respond to that very gently and directly and say, thank you, but we've got to go forward. So I'll do that. I'll have that done this week. And then, almost last but not least, we have found that a lot of times after the condemnation is done, that there is a delay in getting removed from the record at the courthouse the liens and encumbrances, the delinquent taxes mostly. And we're reluctant to close on those transactions from the land bank or to a third party until the records are clean. And so that's a slow process. So we spoke last week, and I've reached out. I found the solicitor who is the attorney for the Tax Claim Bureau, and that's who I need to. And he's willing to meet with us, expedite a process. So when we get the final order on condemnations, and if there's no appeal, then we can petition the Tax Claim Bureau to remove those taxes of record so that we can turn around and get rid of these quicker. So that's in process. I didn't realize or appreciate the delay, and it's months.
Yeah.
So I want it to be weeks, not months.
Well, that delay adds to the redevelopment authority's overhead, right, or carrying costs, right?
Oh, yeah. We're
So-
mowing, we're keeping it up. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, so then it gets delayed, and then we can't file our exemption request, and then we end up accruing additional taxes, and then we have to go through the 4-month process of getting those removed, and so it adds additional staff time on top of our
Yeah.
costs incurred acquiring the property.
Well, it's encouraging that you're having a conversation.
Right.
Sometimes it could be a simple, hopefully it's just a simple,
Right.
procedural, negotiation has to happen.
Right. And so I've started that process. I reached out to them. We'll get together for lunch and hammer something out so that it's a very smooth process. So as soon as we finish the condemnations, that request can go right to that solicitor and get that done so that we can turn these around in short order.
Thank you.
Okay? And then last but not least, again, here is the updated list of the properties, again, that we're working to try to get different issues resolved so that we can get them sold. A lot of some of these, they're saying that they're interested in buying it, but they never come through. So we're working through that to terminate any interest so that it can be offered to other people as well.
I know 612 West 16th Street, the potential buyer is extremely interested.
Okay. I have, you know what, I will look at that. I have not spoken recently with Attorney Jerry Villela. I will find out what we can do to expedite that. Thank you. I'll put an asterisk by that.
That'll be, Gene, that with the solicitor for the Tax Claim Bureau, because that's one of the 23.
Is that
we have
one
to
of them?
work on.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Wonderful. And I'll set up a time when we can get together and have a working lunch with George Joseph. He's the solicitor for the Tax Claim Bureau, which is great.
Yes, we could clear, yeah.
Good. All right. But again, I want to thank you, Aaron and Mindy and Jake. Their help and guidance was instrumental on all these hearings. I took Friday afternoon off. I hope they did too, because they did the lion's share of the work. So.
Attorney Sundberg, it's called self-care.
I think, yeah, you're right. So, yeah, I didn't feel guilty about it at all, So, but
We're
thank
going to
you.
be okay. We appreciate it. I will say that in the year I've been involved or so on the authority is that we're seeing a lot of expedited progress, so we appreciate that. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate the
it's
opportunity.
noted.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Sundberg? Okay. Right. Hearing none, we're on to unfinished business. So the RACP grant update.
All right, so just wanted to provide you an update. I put in the Dropbox for the board members the minutes from our last meeting. So we've kind of reconvened the meetings with EMTA, try to figure out the segment 3 and segment 5 portions of that grant. I really want to get that moving forward so we can close it out. that grant's been hanging around. I believe our consultant, Mr. Ayub, said it's probably the longest open RACB grant at the current time. So would like to get that closed here. Probably not this year, but hopefully only one more grant request. EMTA has reached out to Altair Consulting to work on their behalf. So Mr. Peters and Mr. Hardy are working on getting with them and trying to figure out. The state was involved in that meeting. We talked about abandoning segment 5, revising segment 3. The EMTA had already received an $800,000 draw on segment 3, so we're going to have to work that back into the RDA forms as we rework segment 3 and hopefully come to a solution on using some of the plan costs as matched toward that, so that we can get that build out of the parking garage moving forward here, before the end of this year. So just an update there for you on that. Any questions?
I think so. All right, Sarah Hearn.
All right, so if you remember from last month, we talked about the Sarah Hearn Church and how Key Bank is willing to assign the mortgage over. Mindy did put out a request for interest on the property, toured the property with several business owners and local invested individuals to gauge some interest on the property. Most of who toured it were not interested in it due to its condition. However, we did receive two proposals, which I provided to you. One of them is very detailed. The other one is not as detailed. So we have those two. And then Jake did reach out to some demolition contractors to kind of get an idea of the demolition costs. We're looking at around, would say $250,000 to $400,000 for demolition. That's with rough cost estimating a given amount of asbestos abatement that will need to be done, but until we were to test the property, we would not know what that true cost is. So my recommendation is that I would like to kind of vet out at least one of these proposals, if not both of them, have some discussions, bring them into the office, kind of try to feel them out as far as what their actual intentions are, their financial abilities, before I would make any formal request to the board to accept the assignment of that mortgage.
Sure. I think in all cases, we have to vet the capacity of any proposer. We all have great ideas, but having the ability and the financial wherewithal to carry out a project are two separate conversations.
Absolutely, and we certainly want to do everything in the best interest of the neighborhood, of course, the redevelopment authority. So over the next month, we're going to reach out to these individuals, bring them into the office, kind of have some interview time with them, and try to see how viable these options are.
So, and if we do nothing, the building will continue to deteriorate and will be a detriment to the neighborhood probably.
Yeah, I think at this point, without, if these interests don't pan out, we would start to look at potential grant funds for demolition of the church, given that we would, know that if we did acquire it, we want to demolish it, but we want to make sure we have that funding in place before we would acquire it, because the last thing we want to do is accept the liability of having the church under our control and not having the funds to do anything with it at this point. So we'll start exploring those options. The fair grant, I'm sure, will be opening at some point, so we'll look at some of the fair funds or some other funds from the Keystone communities or anything like that to try to get the demolition underway.
Is there a way to, after we've vetted these two local proposals, maybe go a little bit more regionally to see if there's anybody in the tri-state area, perhaps?
The newspaper article gained a substantial amount of interest.
Okay.
Mindy did have conversations with a couple developers out of the Pittsburgh area. I'm not sure if she had received any calls from anybody in the Cleveland, Buffalo area, but we did get that kind of regional reach with the newspaper article. So there is some awareness of it. We can certainly continue to push it out there and see what it is. The church isn't going anywhere. Key Bank does not want to foreclose on it. The owner doesn't want anything to do with it, and we're still 2 years out from judicial tax sale. So unfortunately, it's just continued to prey on the neighborhood at this point.
It drags it down, obviously.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments at this point? No? Hearing none? We can move on to item number 3.
All right. So as part of the blight mitigation program, we're starting to acquire properties. And through that, as Chuck's aware, on the land bank side, as we get properties that are salvageable, we look to put them out for developer proposals. We would like to, since as in the past, under our blight mitigation efforts for the authority, most cases they are development or demolition candidates, but would like to kind of follow the same process for properties that we would like to put out for developer proposals. Basically bring them in front of the board, provide all of the proposals that have been submitted, allow the board to weigh in on that decision-making process as in what would be the best interest for the property and its neighborhood. So the one up here for today is 717, 719 West 5th Street. We received 3 offers on the property. The minimum bid was set at $20,000. So Mindy puts together this sheet, and she is on Zoom. Mindy, if you want to chime in at any point, feel free. And basically just goes through and compares the different offers against each other, so that then, we can discuss that and make, as best of an informed decision as we can for the property.
And you're looking for a final decision today?
Yeah, a recommendation would
Correct.
be preferred. Or if there was additional information you wanted us to receive from the individuals that would make the, one proposal, if you feel they're the same, we can certainly continue acquiring more information if needed.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I know this is something new to this board, but we've been doing it with the Erie Land Bank Board. But you will be seeing more of these as we move forward with the condemnations and acquiring these properties, and again, trying to get them in an earlier stage before they are demolition candidates. So typically this process, all of the applicants are vetted. We make sure that they do not have past due taxes, they do not own other blighted properties, they don't have outstanding utility bills, and again, making sure that they are good citizens. So a lot of work goes into whether or not they're even able to see the properties first. And then once they do meet that criteria, we get them out to evaluate the properties, and then they are to put together their scope of work and plan for what they would be doing to the properties. So on offer 1, you have a developer. He was trying to get on earlier. There must have been some issues, and then I saw him jump off. So, but he they would do an owner occupancy and rental. So he wanted to live in one unit and rent out the other one. He did provide, I will say, all of the developers that have submitted proposals have provided information about past projects along with pictures and things like that. But going back to offer number 1, so their initial offer price was $20,000. We do include an escalation clause in the proposals, so that, because we don't go back and tell them, we don't do counter offers or things like that. So we allow them to use the escalation clause to give their minimum and their maximum bids. So any questions so far?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so then with the escalation clause, for offer number 1, they escalated up to $33,680 at $100. So we do have an owner occupancy guarantee question on the proposal, which basically asks if the person's willing to sign that they would guarantee living in the property for a minimum of 5 years. This particular developer said yes, they would sign that, but he would not want to do it for 5 years, only because with his job, he wasn't sure he would still be in Erie within the 5 years. They did provide proof of funds for the project. And as far as project notes, the Land Bank Board kind of asked me to summarize some information, which is what these 3 boxes at the bottom are. This offer number 1, they provided all the documents. They have a plan and a vision for the 2 units. I do feel that they're a very good candidate. They understand the scope of work and all the costs involved, and I do not have any concerns with this particular developer. So, going to developer number 2, they would be using it just as a 2-unit rental. So there is no owner occupancy with this offer. They did provide past projects with many pictures. They already have a lot of units. It was Emily and Alan who spoke first. Their purchase price was $20,100 with the escalation up to $27,000. They would not have an owner occupancy guarantee since it was a rental. They did provide me with proof of funds, and again, as far as the overview and everything, they provided all the documents. They have a plan, they have a vision, and I do feel that they are a very good candidate and understand the scope of work and costs. Offer number 3 is Hud Kennedy, who spoke as well. He too would be an owner occupancy with renting the other unit. He has remodeled other homes and has provided pictures. His purchase price was $21,600 with the escalation up to $30,600. Owner occupancy guarantee was not answered on his application. The only concern that I really have with this offer is number one, Hud Kennedy has applied for other properties before. He has been vetted. The developer, this partner that he's bringing in, has not been vetted. So I don't know anything about that partner. He is supposed to be supplying some funds. The funds weren't fully there for the entire purchase price. So that would be my concern, is that if the funds would be available for the entire purchase price plus the renovations of the 2 units. So other than that, I wouldn't have any other concerns as far as, HUD being a good citizen and wanting to improve the neighborhoods in Erie. So, any questions for me?
Do you have a recommendation, Mindy?
Thank you.
My recommendation would be offer number 1 only. Offer number 1 and offer number 2, they're both great candidates. So, but if we look at, they've both submitted the similar information. Offer number 1 would escalate up to $30,700. So the Redevelopment Authority would be getting the most money from that particular offer. Plus, they would be an owner occupant over offer number 2.
So the authority is making recommendation of offer number 1.
Yes, offer number 1 with offer number 2 being the backup
Backup.
if offer number 1 falls through,
Okay.
would be our recommendation.
All right. Recommendation has been presented. Is there a motion to accept offer number 1?
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And Mr. Nelson,
Aye.
you snuck in on me, so good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Okay.
All right.
Next is the item number 4, East Bayfront Greenway Trail Project Update.
All right, so moving forward, we have our steering committee meeting June 20th. So I believe Ethan got the invite. I don't think you can attend.
Right, yeah, I'll be out of town.
Okay. So if any other board member would like to attend, I'd certainly forward that on to them. But we're going to meet with the steering committee on June 20th. Michael Baker will provide us basically a finalized version of the phased plan for the East Bayfront Greenway Trail, more of our phase 1 portion of it on the northern side of our target area in that regard. So we've started to look at some of the properties in the area. Mindy and Jake have been diligent on keeping track of what pops up for sale. We've had some owners reach out to us. Mindy provided the spreadsheet that's in front of you. I won't necessarily call out any addresses or prices, but that is there for you to review, and Mindy can certainly add any comments she has in regards to that. I will say, once the steering committee reviews the plan, we will have an executive session to review the plan and discuss that with the board, given that it is based upon property acquisition and property purchase under the Sunshine Act. We are eligible to review that in executive session because it is very sensitive information.
Okay. And what time is the June 20th?
11 a.m.
11?
And there is a Teams link for it as well. It's
I
in
can do-
person in room 500, but Teams is optional.
I could do the Teams.
Okay. I will forward that on to.
Great.
Aaron, would you forward that on to me as well?
Absolutely, Kevin.
Thank you.
Aaron? You're already in it.
I'll be there, yeah.
All right, so we'll cover for you.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
good.
you're well
You're
covered.
good. We've got you covered. All right, anything else on the Greenway Trail project then?
That's all I have there.
No, I'm gonna be excited to hear about that. Big project.
Yeah, yeah. It's exciting, that's for sure. And if you look at that list, the last one on that list is a property we weren't really expecting to pick up, but given its location, it is gonna be very crucial to that initial start of the park, the pocket park that already exists. So it'll allow us to expand that in a way that we really hadn't anticipated. So that's a good acquisition.
Okay. All right, on to item number 5, performance review. The board met in executive session and reviewed performance. We received information from other board members, staff, and some of the general public. We made a recommendation for a salary increase for Mr. Snippert, which will be inserted. Do I have to state it, or probably not?
No, I mean, you can if you want to.
No, I don't think it's appropriate. So we've made our recommendation, and so I'll be looking forward to accepting a resolution for his increase. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, you're tough. So, and part of our, all those in favor, aye, of course.
Aye.
And part of our conversation was also
Aye.
looking more deeply into the benefit packages and so on, not only for Mr. Snipper, but for the whole organization as well. We want to do a deeper dive and learn more, and we'll follow up in conversation. And I owe you a closeout memo of what we discussed. I took the weekend off too, so don't feel bad. A little self-care. So I'll be following up then, but we'll continue moving. It's an important topic, keeping staff compensated and engaged. So we want to make sure that we're doing a holistic approach to everything. So and I thank everyone for their time for that. A lot of work. Are there
Trying
any?
to withhold the second. I was seeing if Kevin wanted a second. Since
Oh,
he hadn't been on the agenda yet.
I'm sorry. I missed the cue. I missed the cue. So, with that, is there any other business to conduct today?
No.
Kevin, do you have anything for us? I apologize. I heard you come in, but I didn't see you initially, so I just want to make sure if there's anything else that you want to share for the good of the order.
I do not, Mr. Scalise. It's been a good meeting. That's
Great.
it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Hearing no new business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.